right again into Longmuir, noting the first stirrings of the day. Life going on. A truck was backing into the loading dock at the supermarket. On the other side of the road, there were lights on at the bakery. He drove on, down Longmuir Street towards the bridge. Here the houses were newer and more compact than those on the hill. In the dark, they were barely visible, but he knew them, could see them in his mind's eye. Their blank 1960s weatherboard exteriors, plain front fences, overgrown, neglected gardens, or patches of dirt. Much of his daily police work centred on the streets that ran either side of this stretch. The flat, they called it colloquially. He'd been summoned here more times than he could remember to deal with domestic disputes, noisy drunken parties, firearm offences, and, increasingly these days, drugs. But the early hours were a great democratiser. At this time of the day, the flat was as peaceful as anywhere else in Northam, and he had no need to stop here. This morning, his business lay further out in the new part of town, across the river. The estate was the town's answer to a rising population and growing affluence. It was not middle class, not rural establishment like the hill, but there was a certain air of prosperity. Large houses, with even larger garages. V8 sedans, utes and trail bikes littering the driveways. The garages themselves held the prizes. Hot rods, vintage vehicles, works in progress, even the occasional boat, despite being so far from a good body of water. At the end of a cul-de-sac, he pulled up next to a long, low, cream brick veneer, not unlike most of its neighbours, neat as a pin. A concrete driveway led up to the double garage from the street, and another narrower, parallel path ran up to its front door. He turned off the engine and sat for a moment in the darkness. It was one thing to attend accidents, but another to take the news to the family. Mary had been on at him for a while to give up what they called the death messages. If he was on duty, and often even if he wasn't, he invariably delivered them, despite the fact he could have given the job to one of the constables, especially now that there were more personnel. There was nothing about doing it that he liked, yet he believed it was the part of his work that needed the greatest care. He felt obligated to take responsibility, he told her. He knew what these people were going through, how they needed to be treated. She'd replied that his real obligation now was to pass on his skills, his understanding of people, to younger officers. And she was right, of course, as she was always right. Still, this time, he thought he had made the correct decision. This time, given what he knew about this particular family, it was best for it to be him. Thunder rumbled behind the hills, and the rain began to beat down. He cursed and leaned across to the glove box, hoping to find an umbrella, a plastic file, something to hold over his head, but there was nothing useful that he could see. When he straightened in his seat again, sheet lightning lit up the street, and it was in that second of illumination that he saw a figure, someone standing on the driveway, directly in front of the double garage doors, rain-drenched, dripping, staring at the car. At him. Des couldn't clearly recognise who it was through the streaming window, but he knew anyway, and felt a thrill of adrenaline run through him, a grab of apprehension. Had he been there the whole time? Had he watched him pull up? Splinters of frozen rain fired at him as he opened the door, causing him to pause for a moment, shocked by the assault. In the dull glow of the interior light, with his arm outstretched to the handle, he noticed something dark on his sleeve, smears of blood across the cuff of his shirt. How had he failed to see this before? But of course it didn't matter now. Couldn't matter. Like everything else, it was too late to do anything about it. In seconds he was out of the car, running up the drive, thinking only of what needed to be done next. April 2016, Melbourne. She was closing the front door behind her when the white and blue squad car drove past.